Hello and welcome to Boundless Love book Bytes. My name is Javier and Llerena. I am the co-author of Boundless Love, Healing Your Marriage Before It Begins. And what we are trying to do on book Bytes is kind of give you a preview of each chapter. And today we're going to talk about chapter 4, knowing yourself as an individual and also as a couple. So we're going to talk about three key points that we talk about the chapter, and then we're going to leave you with some reflection questions for you to do by yourself or do with your significant other. So let's dive in. So the first key point that we talk about in chapter 4 is really getting to know your wife's strengths. We get into a habit as individuals that even today, I was working with a couple, and they were getting into a habit of really looking into the negative or the weaknesses of each other instead of really looking into the strengths that your wife or your husband has. The same thing goes for as an individual. We tend to really think about the weaknesses and have a hard time really talking about the strengths as an individual. When we less both of them, right, the weaknesses can really take pages and pages, where the strengths is really hard to think about it. But when we start really paying attention to your spouse or yourself's strengths, that really makes the marriage much stronger. I will share with you at the end of this key points that we talk about chapter 4. I will share that an exercise that I did with Christina in regards of looking into her strengths, and it was a fun exercise. So stay tuned for that extra bonus that I'm going to give you besides the reflection questions. The second key point that I want to talk about is marriage is really a daily bow. Is really I know a lot of people say that marriage takes work and is hard work, but at the same time, it's like any other relationship that you have. Marriage is your second. Obviously, God is your number one relationship that you want to really work on. The second one is your marriage. But as your marriage goes, you really are devoted to that relationship. So everything that you do really either deposits on your spouse or your husband's emotional bank account or withdrawals from it. So if we're thinking from a strength-based approach, we think it is what a gift God has given you with your spouse and husband, and we really pay attention to those gifts, we really can see what we call life-giving moments where you are really supporting that person to become the best person that they can be, right? You really are supporting them in their journey. You're supporting them in perhaps moments where they need that support. They need someone to tell them how great they are, how good they are, all the good things that we do. When we tell our significant other the weaknesses and we really concentrate on perhaps the deception they created on us, what we're doing is we really inviting them to become very defensive. And we also inviting them not to become trustworthy of us, right? And really building a good relationship with us. So that's one aspect of really focusing on the best of your wife, your husband, and really looking into their gifts and their strengths and build on that, and then take that and say, okay, how can I support my wife and husband? How can I support them to become the best version, and what kind of life-giving situations I can do where, yes, there's going to be sacrifice, but at the same time, it's going to really enhance your relationship moving forward, right? The third point that I want to point out is that we all have baggage. I think we We have baggage that we didn't realize that we have. It's like when you are moving out of your home, you don't realize how many boxes of stuff have you packed. So in relationship, it's the same way. You carry those luggages with you. Sometimes you carrying more luggage than you thought you you were carrying into that relationship. And sometimes I have a funny analogy I share with couples that sometimes we even have luggage that we have really forgotten that we have to pick up, and it's on the conveyor belt on the airport. So those luggages that we carry on, in some relationships, we are expecting our spouses to really fix us, or really take care of the luggage, or really empty it out, or it's going to disappear. But to knowing yourself is to really check with yourself before your day, and what is really going on, and what's happening, what emotions are you going through, what frustration, and really have that open dialogue. I think the key for a successful relationship is really getting to know yourself, and not really hoping or thinking that your spouse is going to change you, or is going to make the environment better for you, or it's going to make you happy, right? You're the only one that makes yourself happy. And I think it's God's mission for you to get to know yourself, to really understand how much boundless love God has for you, and then take that love and really love your neighbor the same way you love yourself. That quote, it really resonates for me. And also, that quote was reminded by a good friend of mine this week when I had a conversation, that's really the element of having a really good relationship with your spouse, is really loving your spouse, honoring him or her in a high pedestal, the same way you're honoring yourself. So if you're not loving yourself 100%, if you're really looking into your weaknesses, and you're looking into the I shoulds and I could and what is wrong with me, then how can you transmit that love to your spouse, right? All you have is regrets, you have doubts, you have fears. But when you really feel good about yourself, and you know that God has your back, that God loves you in whatever shape and form you are, then you taking the same love that God has given you, and you transmitting that to your spouse, and really looking into the gifts, and you're really looking into their strengths, and how much they can flourish by you giving that love. So just to summarize it, right, knowing what you bring into a relationship can prevent unnecessary struggles and stress into your marriage. And I think that is the vision that I have, is when you come into your marriage, when you're about to marry somebody, or you're in a serious relationship, what you bring to the table, what you offer to the table, is love. The love of yourself, the love that you have for yourself. You completely understand the love that God has for you, and you bringing that to the table, to that future relationship that you're going to have with your spouse, right? Because if you've been a struggle, stress, obviously that's going to backfire you in your marriage, right? So when you focus on your spouse's strengths, right, you are remembering an ongoing commitment to offering your best self, and re-examine influence and patterns from the past that will clarify your self-identity and identity as a couple. So I always tell couples that if you want to be a powerhouse, if you want to be a happy couple, if you want to be a couple that really transmit God's love, you need to start working with yourself first, and accepting God's love. And then from there, seeing the beauty that God has created for you, and then transmit that to your spouse by looking into his or her strengths and gifts. So as a promise, I'm going to jump into what I did for Christina. But here's a quote that I want to leave you with, right? Self-awareness is the key to strengthen your relationship with your spouse. Accepting the values and beliefs that are ingrained in you and respecting her can enhance your life. And that's so true. So I'll leave you with that quote. And before I jump into the reflection questions I invite you for you to do by yourself or with your significant other. One of the exercises I did 2 years ago is somebody suggested to write down 3 significant gifts or strengths that I saw in Christina for a whole year, for a whole 365 years. 365 days to write down 3 gifts or strengths that I have seen on Christina. So I started doing that. The first month was very, very easy. But the second month got very difficult because I will look back in the past days and I'm like, well, yeah, I already got that. I already have that strength. I already have that. So I needed to really look deeper into who she is, her personality, go deeper into the things that she was doing that I didn't pay attention because we live in such a busy world. So what I start noticing a pattern is that I was becoming more curious on who she is and start really digging deeper in all the amazing strengths that we all have, right? The gift of love that God is giving us and really look into that boundless love that God is giving us to be awesome and and there's so many, right? So I think I captured over 1,000, and what I did is I captured those throughout a year, and then on Christmas Eve I give it to her as a present. It's a journal of my observations by looking at her 365 days and looking at the 3 gifts and 3 strengths that I noticed that I was observing. And that's huge because it really opened up my eyes into the amazing wife that I have that went beyond of what I thought I had. It really reassured me what a gift that God has given me by having Christina in my marriage. So the reflection questions that I want to leave you with is, can you see the blessings in past painful experiences, right? I think we all learn from previous relationships and really reflect, right? Because we get into a pattern sometimes to really repeat things over and over again, hoping to get a different outcome. And if not, pray and then ask for guidance. Always ask for guidance from God and see how those relationships have really make you stronger to be the person that you are right now. I'm a true believer that God is constantly modeling you. It's making a mold out of you for that path that He has designed for you. And the second question is, what do you want your marriage to emulate or be different from your family of origin? I come from a broken home. My dad remarried. My mom died when I was 2 years old. And then the relationship that my father had with the second person that he married wasn't an ideal relationship that I wanted to really model. I saw things that they were not very healthy ways of having a strong marriage. So I always promised myself that if I get married, I was going to design the way I wanted my marriage to be. And thanks to God for really guiding me and really molding me and shaping me and making me aware of the things that I needed to really reflect on and start really healing myself and loving myself and look into the gifts that God presents to you and other individuals, in this case, in your relationship, in your marriage, that really shape the vision that I have for my marriage. So I encourage you to take those 2 questions and kind of reflect on, journal on, discuss that with your significant other. And I just want to thank you for watching this video. Thank you for commenting down below. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel and also like us, and make sure you get a reminder. We are posting 2 videos weekly, and we love to also get your comments as well. And next week we have chapter 5, and you will see my lovely wife. I won't reveal what we're going to talk about on chapter 5. It's up to you to stay tuned. We're doing this every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Thank you for watching it. Thank you for supporting Boundless Love.